Set, ready to go.
Good evening and welcome to the April 23rd Police Committee meeting. Please stand for the pledge. Councilman Eshy, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What a day.
We're good.
We used about 100 of these in a row with a little rain in the middle of the night to keep things green. It's great to be here tonight. Thank you all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the February 26th meeting?
I so moved.
Second. Great. And is there any discussion, edits, corrections? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Great. Next is Osborne Drive, East Syracuse, member Nicholson.
Yes, so a resident reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, towards the end of March, and just wanted to communicate with the town board about specific traffic issue in the northern part of the district, Osborne Drive. It's kind of a looping way that people try to avoid congestion at the end of North Burdick Street. And so I will just read his email to the board. I said we would bring it up at police committee. Dear board member, I live on Osborne Drive in East Syracuse. This is the small neighborhood at the southwest corner of North Burdick and Manlius Center. To avoid the traffic light at that intersection of Burdick and Manlius Center, drivers often speed through our neighborhood either on Wilson, which connects the two streets, or by taking Osborne to Wilson or vice versa. As our neighborhood has no sidewalks, people from the neighborhood are often walking in the street. For me, it's walking my dogs. Many of my neighbors have children who ride their bikes or otherwise walk in the street because there are not sidewalks. I know from speaking with my neighbors that others have contacted the town about this over the years, and in the last year, there was a sign posted that displays the speed of traffic heading toward Burdick via Wilson, I assume in response to someone bringing it to the town's attention. It hasn't made a noticeable change. In a snowstorm this winter, someone cutting through slid off the road and knocked down another neighbor's mailbox. It's not uncommon for neighbors to yell, "Slow down," at drivers who are putting our safety at risk. In fact, I just did that, and in return, I was flipped off. Not cool. So I write to bring this to your attention and ask what, if anything, can be done to increase the safety of me and my neighbors. Would the town consider changes to the design of the road to encourage drivers to slow down, or better, to stop taking the shortcut? Sincerely, Matthew Loveland, 102 Osborne Drive. And I responded to him, Mr. Loveland, thank you for this message. I'll put it to the agenda for the next police committee meeting in April, where strategies to address problem hotspots such as you describe are often discussed with the department. And then just personally, I was aware of that cut through. I have heard of this behavior before. So at any rate, that's from a community member.
Sounds familiar. He sent it to the whole board.
Yes, I think so.
And that's right over by my house. I wonder if we can consider these huge bumps like they did here in the village right outside the building. Should invite around.
I know it's something the department's aware of, and obviously brought to our attention last year. The speed sensing sign is a good prophylactic, I guess.
Yes, we're aware. In fact, I backed up one of our officers that made a traffic stop on Osborne at Manlius Center in midday, 11 or 12, and made an arrest for driving under the influence. So we're paying attention to it, and we'll continue to do that. We can sit down and devise a plan. Usually in these kind of situations, what I'd like to do is turn it over to my operations division boss and ask for just some contact with the gentleman. I'd like to collect data, right? So we'd like to see what we're dealing with, the times of day, the offenses, the things that we're seeing. And then once we do that, we can apply what we feel would be, an immediate seek towards a remedy, and then figure out from there through measurement tools again to continue to have it on our list.
It sounds great. I mean, and he acknowledged, the department had responded previously to this hotspot, and I wanted to be responsive to him without predicting what would or would not happen. So that sounds great to me.
No, I never would have thought to bring a concern like that before, so I'm glad you did. And my question for you, Chief, is it the department's response different depending on whose road it is? State, county, town?
We don't see any boundaries if it's inside the town of Manlius and it's a traffic concern. The only time that we have to be aware is when folks are making a complaint about a traffic control device that connects to a state roadway or a county roadway. Who would have jurisdiction to manage the measurement of that device and the effectiveness of that device? We can still go ahead and write tickets based on that device. But let's say the complaint is it's holding us for 5 minutes on a red light, or we're concerned because of this application, the light's not functioning correctly or something, where it has to do with an intersection. We would talk to the engineering of that, that governing body. But normally for enforcement purposes, we see no boundaries.
Okay. Village of Fayetteville will be having a study done by Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council of of East Tennessee from Burdick through the village, at the 3 major intersections. One of the problem areas that I experience every day is if you come off the bridge and you're going east, and there's the 2 lanes that merge, that is really problematic, especially if someone is then going to make a right turn. And there have been people who have contacted us about having been hit. So that particular corner is problematic. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that now. I kind of think we need to have a study, but there is no traffic device necessarily there. There should be lane marks. No.
That's an engineering concern.
Yeah,
And I would say that,
it's a merge, but there's no
Right.
direction on it.
yeah, that's historic.
Mhm.
That's historic for as long as I believe that I can remember it. And I think that the way that the village is going about it is a very intelligent way, because they're asking for assistance from people that understand and do this. And then let's wait and see what those results are. It doesn't stop the fact that we'll respond to any situation that occurs. But from the aspect of how should it be engineered, how should it be affixed? And that will also give us then the ability to do enforcement as we need to.
That should get started.
Oh, that's great.
So we
Yeah,
should
I was
have something by
aware.
the fall.
Okay, great. I was made aware by the mayor a little while ago, but thank you, because there was no kind of date on it. And I know that I had talked to our people, so I'll brief them and let them know when that
Yeah,
gets
we were
started.
notified about a month ago. That would be 2 months before they'll sit down and we'll define it, but really concentrating on the intersections. And the high bridge intersection is going to be more problematic. It already has a bunch of things that are problematic, so when the car wash opens and there's a lane right, a lane right onto East Tennessee too. So we need to think this one through.
Trustee Clear, just as you mentioning that, the SMTC, the bike pedestrian village connectivity study happened, and I will say that SMTC does have copious commentary about that issue that came up. And at the time, meetings, it was not pertinent to the task at hand, like in pedestrian connectivity, but it was sort of noted for future studies. So there has been recent input from community members about this exact problem.
And they have studied it a number of times.
number of
When I said, we
studies.
need to study it, they're like,
Yes.
And, the last study in 2018 stopped at, maybe you should consider some traffic signals. So we were like, okay, let's consider them. Is this applicable? I know the state looks at traffic circles a little bit differently now. So we need to do something. If you're exiting at Freedom of Expressive, for instance, it's a Wild West intersection, so anyway.
Good point with the car wash too, that's people slowly creeping in.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation. I am curious, Chief, this is probably a question that can't be answered. Are people in more of a hurry in 2025 than they were 10 years ago? Because I feel the older I get, the more I see people speeding, the more I follow all the traffic rules.
I think what we're seeing is folks are paying attention to technology, which is drifting them away from the primary responsibility when operating a motor vehicle, which then allows for these additional infractions and situations to occur. And that's why I also do a number of factor-focused enforcements. And that has a lot to do with what we do as far as enforcement piece, which is focusing on those types of habits that create the likelihood of crash, the likelihood of property damage and personal injury. That's why, phone use while you're operating is considered so important and is given a heavy penalty. It's it's something that they draw a direct line from that to that end line, which is the causational factors of crashes.
So it is the phones, but then these modern cars, to me, it looks like my laptop.
Yeah, the screen.
The screen has so much going on it, and you can do a million things with it. I couldn't, but I'm like, wow, just looking at that is a distraction. Just having it in the corner of your eye is a distraction. So,
Yeah.
but that is technology, like you said.
Could I just want to punctuate item number 4.
Sorry.
So, Chief, can I connect Mr. Loveland with you or with?
So absolutely, if you would like to respond, you could let him know that we will be contacting.
Sure, will do.
If he has a preferred contact information or phone number, it'd be great if you could get that, just pass that on, and then we'll contact him.
All right.
Sounds great.
Chief, department report.
Okay, it's okay if I'd like to have the annual report as a part of that, so I can start and work my way down. First off, just I want to provide a quick statement, and that you are all aware that on April 6th, the agency responded to and is the lead investigative agency for the tragic shooting death of Kim Kwan Davis, and that occurred in the village of Manlius. The case is open and continues to be vigorously investigated to determine all the facts and circumstances surrounding the situation. Our continued thoughts, our continued sympathies go to the victim's family and friends. And because the case is open, I'm not going to provide any more further comment on the active investigation, but I wanted to make sure that you knew of our focus when it comes to this. Our staffing report, we have 42 funded for Y25. We have 39 filled at this time. And out of that, we have Officer Brandon Heyman, who graduated from the Black River Academy in Watertown on March 28th. They're going to have a ceremony in July, but is currently participating in the agency's 18-week field training program. Officer Austin Blodgett, formerly an officer with SUNY Upstate, was selected in our last selection process as a transfer officer. And he is also on field training right now and doing great. Prior to that, he was an officer with the Charleston, South Carolina Police Department for 5 years. We also hired recruit officer Mercedes Moore, who's been selected and is attending the Oswego Police Academy at this time as of last week. Mercedes is a town resident and a former Arundel County Sheriff's Office corrections member. I'm very excited to have her. Currently, we have one senior member planning to retire around the end of June. The 3 members previously that had been on disability leave at different times have all returned to full duty. We have one officer on administrative leave that also returned to full duty. And we had one officer less than 2 years on transfer to the Syracuse City Police Department. I wanted to talk just briefly about CALEA and my experience. So I attended the conference that was March 19th to 22nd, where I met with the commissioners in a formal way that they review all of our reporting for the 4 years previous, and then ask assorted questions. It's very much like a Senate hearing. They're there, they got the microphones, you're off to the side, crowds outside, in the room watching. This was we were up for our 10th award. And so the commissioners were very interested in our ability to have a long-standing adherence to professional standards. They're very interested in our unique story of how we were once village agencies, came together as the town, utilized professional standards at a time before really truly that was like the conversation in our profession. They were very complimentary of our agency and our members. I believe all of you received the final report from the commission. I wanted to just offer the opportunity, if you had any questions in regards to the material that you took a look at. I'm happy to answer those things either now or later. I know there's a number of things that, CALEA is not subject to FOIL. It's a private organization. We don't create that document. They provide it to us, and I provide it to you. We're, as an agency, we don't put that out and have not historically put the results of those things. We feel the transparency comes back to you as our elected officials, and then you're able to answer questions from the community or have the confidence to answer questions from the community in regards to it. There's a number of things within the product that are very specific to police procedure and specific to individuals that do police procedure. So hence why the majority of my experiences as agencies don't normally put that out to the public. But I'm open to the conversation if you feel it's necessary. We had a very good report. Again, it's the culmination of 4 years. So 3 years or 4 years of them looking from afar, and then finally an on-site process that comes in. So you'll see kind of a collection of some statistics. You'll see a collection of what the on-site review process is, and you'll see each year as they go through kind of what they reviewed and some of their comments and stuff. Does anybody have any questions for me? Annual report. Talk a little bit about some of our preliminary results and what they revealed from our annual report. From 2023 to 2024, we observed just over a 31% increase in police incidents and a 27% increase in dispatch 911 calls for assistance. And with that, I want to just share with you some different pieces of the puzzle. So, use of force. We release use of force statistics. Our use of force report will go up on our website. It is in process right now being done because it's an analysis. It's not just here's some data. It's actually data that's quantified and qualified to look for patterns and trends, and then those patterns and trends are used for decision making and identification of where we need to go in the future. And we've utilized the data that has been quantified and qualified. We turn it into actionable intelligence, and that actionable intelligence has helped us move the needle. And we started doing that in 23. So in 2024, we had 15 uses of force involved on a person, 15 reports across 11 subjects, 8 separate incidents. 3 incidents involved individuals in crisis, resulting in mandatory psychiatric evaluation. 5 were related to criminal arrests. 4 felony arrests, 1 misdemeanor arrest, which was menacing, and 1 was a request for mutual aid to a neighboring agency where they needed help. 2 of our responses involved the display of a firearm. 4 incidents involved an active pointing of a taser, and 1 incident involved a taser deployment. We track all of those. It's not just all or nothing. We track when we have to because we look for opportunities for compliance and where those opportunities for compliance were received. After supervisory, division commander, internal affairs, police certified instructor, and CEO review. So that's all of the review we do with use of force. All of our uses of force were found to be lawful and in compliance with policy and procedure. There were no external or internal complaints that were received. So the average use of force for organization between 2014 and 2023 was 13 years. So when we looked at where we were at the end of the time, we received a whole number of reductions over previous years, and in comparison, over 10 years, 38% reduction. And the agency made these significant strides because we keep looking at new and progressive policing strategies specific to use of force used. The agency adopted an evidence-based use of force programming entitled Integrating Communications, Assessments, and Tactics, ICAT, towards the end of 2023, and we rolled it out at the end of 2023, and we continue to teach in 2024. And that has been proven to be very effective in reducing our use of force, particularly in high risk and volatile situations. And we're starting to see the pattern coming, and that's what's exciting about this. We're continuing that process. That, coupled with our ability to do any kind of de-escalation training and communication training, has been just a great opportunity to see the benefits of some of this advanced training. So when I talk about a little bit about ICAT, it's a process in which has been developed. It's kind of west to east, and we had an opportunity and an invitation, as I'm a member of an organization in regards to police management that had identified ICAT as something in which agencies are starting to see, based on the evidence-based aspect of it, reductions in use of force. We took advantage of the opportunity to send 2 of our people, no charge for the training. We just had to get them there. It was in the outside of Chicago area. And what they brought back has been phenomenal, because it really truly is based on a classroom setting where they have discussions and they use actual police body cam from around the country of all different kinds of situations. And then they have conversations as they go through and they pick it apart. And they pick it apart and pick it apart. And they talk about the goods, they talk about the challenges, they talk about the bads, and they talk about what could we do and how could we do that. And as the training matures over time, then they go into scenario based, where they get their gear up and then they walk into situations where they actually have scripted scenarios that help kind of iron out the communications and the things in which they do and how they work together. So we're already experiencing that. And I think it's the right thing to do. We're continuing to pursue ICAT, and I'm very happy with what we're seeing so far. Our first quarter statistics for 25, our UCR Part 1 crimes reported, this is our first quarter, which are rape, robbery, assault, burglary, larceny, stolen cars. It's about 59 separate crimes. This is a slower part of our year, but still 59 separate situations in that category. 35 of them are closed by arrest, which means we have just over a 59% closure rate for the first quarter. I think you've heard me talk about closure rates before. Very important for us to take a look at how we're doing and what we're doing, and are we doing it the right way. It's one thing to have members of our community, people passing through, become victims of crime. It's another thing to be able to maybe restore some of their faith by being able to close that case and give them some answers. So we focus, and that means that highly trained police officers with very clear sets of instructions, solid foundation in policy, strongly supervised in command. So there's a lot of things that go into this, and it takes time. Our UCR Part 2 crimes reported, so arson, kidnapping, narcotics sale, possession, forgery, stolen property, criminal mischief, fraud, simple assault, and other ones that are not categorized, kind of in between some of those things, and also DUI or DWI. 69 separate crimes in our first quarter, 33 were closed by arrest, making it just a 47.83% closure rate for the first quarter. So again, they're slow months, but I like what we're seeing right away. It tells me that we're on the right track. Our first quarter generated and responsiveness, so generated like a police officer working in an area that sees something, right? Or a response call, 911 calling it, right? So, so our first quarter generated responsiveness in 2025 had decreased just over 7% in comparison to the same period last year. Our 5-year average, we're still at like a 37, just over 37% increase. Any questions on it? I know I kind of went over them quickly.
I know it's just it's a snapshot in time versus the prior year's APR, but the closure rates are better.
Very much
first quarter, even just over prior year APR numbers.
Yeah.
I did have a question, and it may be too early to answer this, but is there, within the data, I'm going back to the reduction of lethal uses of force, so the continuum of use of force administered, and the focus on less lethal, that continuum approach from less to more lethal uses of force. Is there anything within the data right now to indicate that there is a migration in the rate of actual lethal force necessary? It may be too early.
For us as an organization, we're very fortunate. We haven't had to use lethal force. And as an organization, there could be circumstances that could happen almost immediately that would require that in certain situations. But we work very, very hard to provide options anywhere we can seek an option. So like ICAP, force multiplier, how do we deal with this way so before it gets here? And if it is here, how do we bring it down to a point in the de-escalation process to be able to have that conversation, no matter how much time that is? So how do we, like the term, don't compress their space, that was not something that we dealt with in my time, right? So what's the value of not compressing that space? What's the value of being able to give people the opportunity to get, to have the, to not as feel as pressured? How are we flexing our authority in the manner in which we talk with people? How are we teaching our police officers in those times when they need to be authoritative and when they need to just be someone that's ready to sit and listen and give folks the opportunity to vent without feeling that it may be something in which that's a threat to their safety?
Yeah.
So
sort of redefining when the situation is under control differently.
we're giving them tools. So just as when we started venturing into less than lethal opportunities, okay, so whether it's a taser or whether it's a specially designated weaponry that it has like a sponge round or a different kind of round to it, what are we carrying and putting out in the field that would allow us to have something available at a time in which that would be critical? So we've done that as an organization. We have fielded shotguns that are specifically, we're trained with, they're specifically identified, they are less lethal, they fire a less lethal round. We have also 40 millimeters that have a less lethal round, so they can kind of reach people farther away. Because again, as you compress space, options get limited. We want to keep space as far as we can and keep that conversation going. And if unfortunately the situation is that we can't control that, what can we do and what kind of tools do we have available that would allow us to attempt to stop that compression of space or that violent action towards us if given an opportunity is far away? And that's some of our thought process and what we've been doing. Now every situation is different. So we have our open house Saturday, May 17th from 11 to 2. Everybody's invited and welcome. Lots of displays. We include a lot from the community. We invite community members. We do this in conjunction with our partners in the village of Manlius. And we have really, it's just a great day. I just keep my fingers crossed, no rain. We're also going to be putting out that we'll be accepting canned goods in support of our local food pantries. We just thought something a little bit extra to do with folks coming through if they'd like to help out our community. Our cadet post is sponsoring the Police Cadet Academy Day on August 2nd, which is pretty exciting, at St. Mary's Parish Center in Manoa. And that's where they invite other cadet posts in our area. And they have some training and then they have some competition and they get evaluated and I plan on being there with them. So I'm excited about our cadets, which are really our future in this business, and they're some pretty amazing kids. Our awards dinner was April 5th. Thank you so many of you for being there. I appreciate that. And it was just a wonderful night where we were able to thank our public and our professional service providers for some of the successes that we had in some pretty amazing situations throughout 2024. So that's what I have for you right now. So
I was glad on social media that the awards, you had photos of the awards and you discussed those to put out to the public because there was no other way to do that. I think it's really important for people to know at least a little bit about who the people are who are excelling and a sense of the kinds of things that we look at that we want to be able to recognize. So it was a really amazing night. I was really honored to do that.
It was great. Thank you.
Very good. Other business from the committee? That brings us to voting for a chairperson to begin June 1st, 2025 and concluding May 31st, 2026.
So I only received one letter showing interest, and that was from Councilor Nicholson. So unless somebody else is showing interest, I don't even know if we really need to do the ballot or just make a motion.
Are you interested, Casey? I would nominate you to serve as chairperson.
Thank you. I did consider it, and I think I need a little bit more experience, but in future year, I would love to serve. But I appreciate that.
Oh, all set.
That was a really quick answer.
I also would say that I have a lot of confidence in Councilor Nicholson in this role, and I look forward to learning from you. See all the questions that you generated. Yeah, that's the kind of way to go through it. Appreciate that.
I will gladly second that. And it will make a great chair for this committee.
Is that a vote?
Did I make a motion?
I don't know if I made a motion.
I was just seconding.
All right, I'll give-
I was just seconding.
You would amend the motion to cast one unanimous ballot for Councilor Nicholson to be the June 1st, 2025 to May 31st, 2026 committee chair.
I'll give Mike as the first.
Yes.
Who wants to second it?
I'll second
All
it.
right, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Service to the committee.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's definitely a privilege and an honor. And I will say, first off, having shepherded through as a town board member and member of this committee, this reconvening of the intent and purpose of the intermunicipal police committee in the first place, it's something that I take with great humility and with great determination to remain fixed and with attention to the duties and tasks of that agreement and to make sure that this committee is fulfilling its purpose. And also at the same time to draw in, I feel as a town board member and as chair of this committee, it is my responsibility to actively facilitate village input, not, to make sure that the committee is functioning as intended as the advisory body with a number of responsibilities. And I will try not to be too much of a disciplinarian with these meetings and agendas. I will be nice, but thank you for the confidence. And I will say finally that it's really a privilege and a pleasure to serve in this role as a body to help administer one of the town's most important services, one of the biggest things we do here, and attending to the public's health and safety of our community is really a sacred responsibility. And we talk about a number of things, including in this meeting, the many, many things that we ask this department to do, the many, many different ways that we have our municipal police department serving the community, adapting to various demands and needs and pivoting this way and that with incredible agility. And that's something to be proud of. It's also something to be really fastidious about, making sure they keep doing that. And we here in this committee have a great deal of responsibility to making sure they can do that. But I also want to just say, let us not forget in the middle of all of this, as the events of the tragic loss of a life right in the middle of Mr. Paluski's village on April 6th is a great demonstration that at the bottom of this giant pile of responsibilities and things that we put on this department is an incredibly sterling ability to do police work, to do incredible investigative work, and without commenting on any specifics of this ongoing investigation, I'm just wildly impressed with the expediency and competency of this department. So in addition to all the other things that we're having these folks do, when something like this occurs, we're on it with incredible speed, skill, and competence. And so for that, it's also a great privilege to sit on this committee. I'm sure everyone here feels the same way, but I take great humility to chair position. And I will say that the terms don't line up with my town board term. So in the event that in November, or in the event that I need to vacate my town board position on January 1 of 2026, I might ask that we pursue appointment from somebody in the town to allow me to continue in the role. I don't see it as a fatal flaw here, but I am up for, my term runs out at the end of this year. So just wanted to point that out.
Cheers.
Well said, Dee. Very well said. It's easy to take for granted how great our police department is. This committee doesn't take it for granted.
I think I'll pass that along to our folks because it's them, it's not me. They're the ones that do the job and they get it, they feel it, and they believe in it. And that's something in which that you also have provided, the opportunity for us to do. So your role is very important here. They believe, and they need to know that others believe that have control over them. It's an important fact when you're in service of others, and so I thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order?
I just have a question about the last year's calls. I saw the postcard, the 3902 was the winner. And would you attribute that to town center?
Yeah,
And maybe the thoroughfares of the two converging state routes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think traffic wise, population density, town center has a lot to do with it. Absolutely. And I think it'll grow too with some of the growth that's happening in our community, that area. And then that'll be something in which we'll need to look at and say, do our post boundaries, do they need to change? How should they change? And we'll be paying a lot of attention to that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's you, Casey, the 3902 car Fayetteville was the winner. Yeah, a little bit of village, but it's into the town, but that's the car that covers the village.
Okay.
Primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, busiest area.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So quick, less than 10 seconds.
Always.
Always.